Welcome into the Real Healing Institute. So Christ consciousness asks the question, what is true, what is loving, and what is life-giving? Whereas when we are in dysregulation, if we have our body dysregulated, if our nervous system is all over the place, the only question that we are asking is, am I safe? And you cannot ask the second question. You can't ask what's true and loving and life-giving when you are stuck in the feeling, the only question of, am I actually safe? It's not even going to come to your mind. You're not even going to be thinking about it. And so what needs to happen, if you are wanting to embody Christ consciousness, if you are wanting to go that path, is the very first thing that needs to happen is the regulation of your nervous system, regulating your body. Because as long as it's dysregulated, you will be stuck in things like fight, flight, freeze, fawn. And all of these things are going to keep you away from what is actually true, what's actually loving, and what's actually life-giving. Because a dysregulated body, it's going to confuse boundaries with danger, or experiences of truth as exposure. It might even interpret something that is very neutral as a threat. And it will react before there's awareness. Think about a trigger. This is what I'm talking about. When we are triggered by something, what is the automatic response that comes up? It's not really even a response, but it's more of a reaction of the body going, oh, it's happening again. You feel a certain way. You get thoughts that come up along with it. And immediately it takes over your consciousness. And so this is why people can believe in the love of the divine. Oh, I believe in love and all the things, but they actually cannot embody it because love is impossible without safety. It's just impossible. Think about a relationship that you have. If you really love that person, but you don't really trust them, you cannot fully experience the love because you'll be in the middle of it and you'll be thinking, oh, it's good and it's great. But then this old little bit of whatever it is creeps in and it steals it away from you. And it brings back the question, am I safe? And so if you are not safe, if you don't feel safe, you are not going to be able to get to this place. Now, I worked with a man the other day, and he said his whole entire life, he's never felt that feeling of safety because as a very young child, he was not treated properly by his parents. He was not treated good at all. And then he grows up and it continues along these same paths, right? We see all these patterns of, okay, he felt this way, unsafe when he was young. And now, he's quite some age now and he still feels unsafe, never has ever felt safe. And so what needs to happen if we are looking for spiritual development, if we are looking to grow ourselves spiritually, is that we need to regulate our nervous system. And this seems perhaps like it's a separate issue. Like, how can my body have anything to do with my spirituality? Well, I got to tell you, the only reason that your body is in the state that it is in is because there are beliefs that are present that are causing harm. Or there's like this expectation, meaning there's a belief, but there's an expectation of something negative at some point is going to happen to me. And so I'm up in arms. I'm prepared for the shoe to drop because the shoe has dropped so many times in my past. I know it's going to. And so then we're living in that place of I'm not safe. Or am I safe? I don't know. I don't feel safe. And as long as we're in that energy, love is impossible. It's just absolutely impossible without safety. And love is the actual and only fabric of Christ consciousness. It's what is life-giving and loving and true is what Christ consciousness is. And so what happens is that trauma will cause fragmentation within us. Because trauma is going to pull you out of this conscious moment. And if you were to think about this conscious moment, well, think about it right now. You're breathing. You're cool. You're here. You're listening to this podcast. You're alive. Everything's good. And you can actually tune out the life and the situations and the things that are going on around you as long as you're staying in the present moment. But what happens is that trauma pulls us out of this present moment. And it has the body living in the past. So these things come up, we get triggered, we feel the feeling. Well, we feel that feeling that we felt in the past. It's as if we're living these things that happened to us in the past again. And what else happens when we're in trauma? The mind will try to escape what's going on right now. I've seen this with clients. They would come into my office and I would see that they couldn't even listen to what I was saying. They weren't even paying attention because their mind is somewhere else because they're in so much trauma. And so we would have to start their session with something like EFT, tapping or something like this to just work through some of the trauma so that we could actually start the session and get focused. And what's really cool is that it would happen so quickly. EFT is something that can shift things so quickly that they're sitting there not paying attention, and I'm not mad about it. I'm just recognizing like, okay, wow, they have so much that they can't even focus. Like, I've been there, so I understand this. And so we would tap through it, and then, okay, now the body is calm enough that we can actually do some of the other work that we need to do. But the soul cannot fully inhabit the body when it is filled with trauma. You can't, because your soul is just pure love, it's pure light, it's the most beautiful. Oh, it's just so perfectly wonderful. It's perfect. It's so perfect. But as long as you have this trauma that's unhealed, that energy, because trauma is just energy, just like everything is just energy, is then living within the body. And so the soul can't fully inhabit the body. And so the body feels completely dysregulated. You might feel tension, tightness, chest, shoulders, arms, your guts, this. You will physically feel symptoms when trauma is present because it has caused fragmentation within your body. And because of this, you can't allow fully for the light to come through until that trauma is healed. Now, here's the dealio with this too, is that sometimes we bring trauma in from past lives to heal in this life, and don't think like, oh no, well, how am I going to know that? You'll know because it'll get brought up again in this life. So if there was something that you needed to heal, like, okay, let's say that you went through your last life and you were abused by somebody and you didn't forgive, like, oh, great, what a lesson. I'm so glad I'm here to learn this lesson. Anyways, you go through that life and you didn't forgive. Well, what's going to happen? They're going to come back. It's going to happen again to trigger you, to remind you, hey, this is the work that we came here to do. But Christ consciousness, it's only accessible in presence. So if there's no presence, if you're not present here, then there's no embodiment. And if you are unable to be present, it is because you have trauma living within you that's just not allowing you to do it. And I'm not saying that this is bad. I'm not trying to shame you. I'm just letting you know this is what we got to do. We got to heal the thing so that we can then be in that embodiment, so that we can actually truly be present. Because right here, right now, you're breathing and you're okay. And you're learning and you're growing. And all of these wonderful things are happening to you in this exact second, in this exact moment right now. And so when you can be present here, well, what's that going to do? When you bring all of your consciousness here into this moment, it's not now fragmented. And half of it living in the past, half of it living in the future, half of it living over in your worry box or in the stress box or in the, oh, I hope that doesn't happen. And we are able to be in the present, where the present allows us to know all things. So when I had this, illumination, enlightenment come through several years ago, because some of us want to know the future, right? I'm just going to give you an example of this, of, oh, well, the divine, is not a future teller. And the divine very clearly told me that it's not. And that it is about this exact moment, and now this moment, and now this moment, that these are the only moments that we really actually have. Because I'm walking on a road, I've had all these amazing downloads and inspiration and healing things and just crazy, beautiful, wonderful things that have come through. And I'm like, okay, cool, divine, tell me more stuff. What should I be doing right now? And I'm expecting something profound, because I've been getting extremely profound things like for the previous however many days that have come through. And so I'm like, jacked up about it, like, cool, what else? Tell me more. And it said, just keep walking. And I'm like, what? Well, that's not profound at all. And immediately I was stopped, because I was disappointed when I heard, just keep walking. I'm like, what? Like, I'm expecting something that's going to change the world. But I got to say, what followed truly has for me. Because my moment of disappointment of like, what? That's all that you got to tell me, was then followed by, I don't predict your future. I tell you what to do right now. And if you listen to what you're supposed to do right now, everything will fall into place, because you're always going to be at the exact right place that you're supposed to go. When was the last time that you felt like, oh, maybe I just need to go down to this place or that place, and you felt this pull, this need to go somewhere, and then you went somewhere and you met somebody that you were supposed to meet? That is how it works, is when we listen to the right now, that is where the guidance comes through. And when we listen to it and we follow it, we'll be led to all these amazing and wonderful experiences. And when we ignore it, we won't. So if you've ever felt like, oh, I really need to do this, or you felt this weird thing, this is how you know when it's weird, when it's not a thought you would normally think. When it's something that's like, what? You want me to go over and talk to that person over there, that stranger that I don't know? And what do you do about it? You don't. You talk yourself out of it. You're like, that is not happening. And you don't get to experience the blessings that could have come from you being an earth angel and going and delivering the message that the divine wanted you to go and deliver. Because we talk ourselves out of it. Why? Because we're fragmented. And our trauma tells us, oh, be afraid of that. What if that person judges you when you go over and say something to them? What if this happens? And it will lead you down all of these ridiculous thoughts and all of these things, but we believe in them. We put our faith in them and we think, okay, you're right. What if they do think I'm weird? What if this happens from that? And we believe in all the BS and all the lies that talk us out of the truth. And the truth is that we just needed to go over and deliver this message that the divine told us to give to them, and it would change that person's life, and it would offer something up to you as well, because you'd get stronger and you'd realize, oh, okay, well, no, that person actually accepted my message completely well. You know, what a wonderful thing. But when we don't heal our trauma, we will let it dictate our life. We will let it tell us what we're going to do today, what we're going to do tomorrow. We're going to let it tell us all kinds of things. We're going to keep it. We're going to keep it from letting us do what we're supposed to do, because it's going to tell us, oh, don't do that. Oh, don't do that. Oh, what if? But what happens is when we get these messages and we haven't healed, we are going to have stress responses. We're going to have stress responses where our nervous system is going to be all crazy. It's going to be like, what? Oh, I'm not doing that. I don't want to go and do that. And it's going to set off all these alarm bells inside of us that repeats everything that we've ever seen in the past, every incident that we've ever had. And we won't even know that this is what's happening. But it might be like, okay, in second grade, you told somebody something, they didn't accept it, they rejected whatever it was that you had to say, and now you don't like to speak. Now you don't like to tell people what comes to you because you were rejected one time. Now you've perhaps long forgotten this memory, but your subconscious has not. And so your subconscious is dictating what it is that you're doing here today based off of your past, meaning your consciousness is fragmented because of that trauma. And so that person not accepting what you said however long ago, that's trauma. Because prior to that, you didn't feel a certain way. You were allowed to speak. You could speak your truth and say what you wanted to. Then that incident happened. It made you think a certain way. It made you feel a certain way. It changed something within you. That's why that's trauma. And then on the other side of it, things were different. And so when we're dysregulated like that, it is the dysregulation that is going to determine our life. It's going to do all of the things that we then experience, and we're not going to know it. We're going to call it our life. We're going to be like, oh, this is just my life. This is just the way it is. And we're not going to realize that it's the things that we've done, the things that we've thought, the things that we believe in, the things that we put our faith in, and our unhealed trauma that is actually what is determining the life that we are now living. Because we expect the same things to happen in the future as what happened in the past. And it is through our expectation that these things actually come into fruition. This is why Christ says, turn the other cheek. Forget about what happened yesterday. Forgive and forget. He tells us, leave the past in the past, and you actually have to do this. And when you don't, then dysregulation will come. Because when the body is dysregulated, it it will cause chaos in our life. And when the body is regulated, it will not descend into chaos, because we're asking different questions. Rather than, am I safe? We're asking what's right and loving and true, which feel the vibration of this. The comparison of unregulated, of am I safe, causes all kinds of issues, as opposed to asking the question, is it true? Is it right? Is it good? It feels completely different. And so this is why we need to heal all of these things within us, because without it, we will have some kind of disassociation from our present life. We will not be truly perceiving things honestly, what is being presented in front of us, because it will still be skewed and flavored with the beliefs that we have held onto from the past. And what needs to happen is, in order to get to this place where we can embody Christ consciousness, the body has to actually feel safe. But here's the deal. In order to do lots of the work that needs to happen, like forgiveness and things like this, we have to feel safe first. And so then there's this little skew of, okay, well, how can I forgive if I don't feel safe? And if I don't feel safe, then how can I? Yeah, and it keeps going back and forth. And what do we got to do? Well, we got to go into our subconscious, and we got to find the places where this trauma began. And we got to heal it at its root. Because the mind is always asking why, right? And we've done this ever since we were born. Why? But why? We ask these questions, and when we get an answer, then we're like, cool, and we can move on. But until we have the answer to it, we keep seeking, and we can't find. And so what happens when you have this trauma, and people are like, oh, just let it go, I'll just heal it. We have to understand it. First, we have to understand, okay, why is it here? Why are you here in the first place? Where did you come from? Why would I be believing this thing that I don't even believe? Because, I will have people tune into my spiritual circles, or be in sessions with me, or things like this, and they know things, right? Like, well, I know this and this and this, but for some reason I can't make myself embody that or feel it. And I know it 100%. I absolutely know, but I still can't make myself do it. Why? Because that place where that energy of embodiment is living, something else is living there right now. And it's trauma. It's the old way. And because of that old way, until we heal that old way, we can't replace it with a new way, with a way that feels safe, that feels free. So Jesus taught embodiment. And he said, greater things than I have done will you do. But because his teachings have been false, and have been completely, they've just been false. His true teachings have only recently come out, through the Christ letters, where he's telling us what he was actually teaching. And some of these are in the Bible, but they're so misinterpreted and skewed and flavored with the old dogma that they don't hold any weight. And it does not talk in the body or in the Bible about him being embodied. And this is such an important factor in your spiritual practice. Because we can read all the books, we can know all the things, but until it's embodied, until it is us, we're just speaking words. And they don't hold weight. They don't hold any spiritual, really much of anything. They are literally just words until they are embodied, because then it changes the energy that is attached to it. And therefore the people hearing it, or the things on the other side, it has a different outcome. Because you could just listen to a book, you're going to learn some things. But when you know something, and then you have an experience, and then you know something, this is what I'm talking about. This is the difference between just knowing it and embodying it. And typically what it takes is some supernatural or mystical kind of experience, or some kind of something that has happened that shifts you from knowing it to truly embodying it. And when that happens, what a relief. What a relief it is, because this is what we've been working towards this whole time. And so when we actually can regulate ourselves, when we've healed this trauma within ourselves, things are going to shift. And so what would be things that you might notice? You might notice things like you'll be able to say no without any guilt anymore. You'll pause before reacting, because when we're in that triggered sense, when we have that trauma that's unhealed and something happens, we're not even going to be able to take a pause. We're immediately just going to have this reaction to it. And this is telling us there is something in the body, there is something within us, in the mind, in the spirit, that needs to be healed. And when we're regulated, we'll be able to stay present during conflict. What happens when we're not, right? Our mind goes elsewhere, we escape, we shut down, we do this, we do that. But when we are embodied in Christ consciousness, if there was conflict coming, we're going to be able to stay present. Now, Christ consciousness is something that it's lived. It's not imagined. And so in order to live this, basically, we just need to get rid of all the things that are blocking us from that. And so let's say that you have this big awakening moment and it's just profound and you're like, oh, wow, I see things so differently. And then you go back and you're with a group of your friends. Now, they haven't had this insight that you've had. So they are still exactly the way that they were last time you saw them, but you have now changed because you have some information that has allowed you to see things different. And what happens now is that now we have another challenge of, okay, what do we do with this situation with our friends? Because our friends are still talking the old way. They're still acting the old ways. They're still thinking the old way, but we've had this new information. And so we can see what they're doing is harming them. And we can see like, there's a better and a higher way, but we don't want to just start preaching at our friends. And so what is it that we do? Well, now we have another challenge that we have to go through. And this is all part of the process and all part of the progress. Is that sometimes we need to let people go along the path. Why? Because there will be people who will be more vibrationally aligned and that are going to be able to help us on our path. Because at some point we're the hoist, and at some point people hoist us up. And we kind of take turns going back and forth. But when you are always the hoist, when you are always the one that's lifting, who is helping to pull you up? Who is helping to keep you up there? So sometimes we actually need to change the people that we are associating with. And often when we have a big spiritual awakening, this is what happens. We'll end up having to let things go. I know that they say this a lot about plant medicine. When you go on these journeys, it can crack you open and it'll let you see things that you hadn't seen before. And so they say, don't make any big decisions. Don't do this, within this period of time following this, because you have woken up. Something within you that was dormant is not dormant anymore. It's like taking the red pill. You can't untake it. And so then there's things that have to happen after this so that you can stay on the path, because there's nothing more disheartening than having this huge spiritual awakening and then being surrounded by the same thing, the same stuff, and all of a sudden you're stuck in the mud again. And you've allowed yourself to be pulled back in the chaos because you didn't remove yourself from a place that you weren't resonating with anymore because you felt guilt. Okay, well then now we know, now guilt's the next thing you got to work on. It's the next low vibrational energy that you've got that you need to work on. And all these things will systematically come up at the right time because you're ready for it. And so just know, if something comes up, you're ready for it, or it wouldn't have come up. And if you think you healed all these things, but now this trigger has come up, don't be disheartened. And don't think, I thought I did all this work and now this has come up. No, perfect, man. It came up right now because it's supposed to come up right now. You didn't have the opportunity to see that thing. It couldn't be triggered before now because it didn't have the opportunity to be. But now it has been, and now you can be aware of, there's another area I need to work on. This happened to me when I've left my marriage after all the things that happened there and all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, now I'm healed and blah, blah, blah. And I've forgiven him and this or that. But you don't realize that there's so many things that get triggered when they have the opportunity to be triggered again, because we can be like, cool, I've healed all these things, but you put yourself back in a situation where those things could potentially happen again, and then see how much healing you've done. And then see like, oh, wow, okay, I guess I did lots of healing, but there's still a whole lot more that needs to happen. And so when we can become aware of all these layers, perfect. Here's another layer that I can now, rather than instilling it with fear, I can fill it with love, and I can fill it with truth. And I can recognize from all the healing that I've done in the past that it always results in the same, that this horrible thing that I thought was so horrible ends up not being horrible and ends up being some type of blessing in some way. And so when we can remember all these patterns, all these things that we've healed in the past, it can make it so much easier for us to heal these new triggers, because rather than it coming up and us just reacting to it, we can let it come up and be like, oh, interesting observation here. I'm being triggered right now at this moment. What is this about? And rather than reacting like we would have in the past, we can actually be like, oh man, I'm triggered, and we can think about it. And then we can go into our mind, into our subconscious, and we can go and start to do some powerful work in there and to heal that thing so that in the future, that thing that triggered us in the past isn't going to anymore. And so if there's something that you could do for yourself today, just know that that feeling of, am I safe, is so important. And when you can say yes, then you've done it. And until that point, when you can say that yes, just keep looking at it and keep going into it. And so if you don't feel safe, first of all, identify where physically in your body do you not feel safe. Okay, chest, stomach, guts, wherever it is. And then follow that feeling. Take yourself into meditation and ask that feeling. Talk to it. It's your friend because it loves you and it's telling you, hey, heal this thing. So it wants to assist you. It wants to help heal you. And so when I can talk to that thing and be like, hey, you know, what's up here? It's going to tell you. And then you can start to work and you can do this healing work on yourself. And you can start to work towards having that freedom so that when you ask, am I safe? Of course you're safe. And then the next question that you ask then is, what's true and loving and life-giving? And then this will become your mantra, because when you heal that, am I safe? It's healed for good. And now you're safe. Perfect. And then you can move on to a higher plane of consciousness where you can ask, what's true and loving and life-giving? Because previously when I believed I wasn't safe, it turns out that that was a lie and that I actually am. So what else am I believing that are actually lies, that are harmful to me, that are fear-based, that I could change and transmute into something that's loving, because then that would actually be the truth. Now, another thing that you could do here to help yourself if you feel like you are dysregulated is go and check out the childhood wound quiz that I made. This is going to let you know, it's going to have you see the patterns present today that are still affecting you. This will be affecting relationships or certain areas of your life, and it's going to help you identify which areas need to be healed, and then it's going to guide you to, hey, you know, this is the thing that needs to be done, and then you can release and heal this stuff too. Because all of us, we're just all doing this together. You and me, we're just all doing this whole thing called life together. And the safer that we feel, the safer it's going to feel in this world, and the more wonderful it's going to be. So I channeled a book called The Way to Peace. I don't know if you guys have got it yet. You can buy it on Amazon, Apple Books, whatever. You can buy it everywhere. It's called The Way to Peace. And in that book, it's talking about consciousness and how we regulate. And so you and me, if we walk into a room and somebody's in a really bad mood and we're in a really good mood, we have a choice, right? We can choose to get sucked into that draining energy and all of a sudden we're now in a bad mood. Or we can consciously choose like, hey, no, I'm going to be the uplifted one here and I'm going to maintain myself. We have a choice. Sometimes it doesn't feel like a choice, but we do. Whereas the world, it does not have the choice. It goes with the majority. And so as you and me begin to embody these Christ consciousness frequencies and vibrations, the world will do the same. It will follow suit. And then pretty soon, everybody, the shift happens and they don't even got to do the thing, but it doesn't matter if they do the thing, they're going to get swept up in the consciousness energies that are present. And this is what we want. I don't want everyone to have to go and suffer and do this and that to get to that place. I just want them to understand and get to that place. And this is what we want, you know, as a collective. And so when we do the work, eventually it will affect everyone in the world and we will all have a peaceful and wonderful outcome. And this is what we want. So thank you guys for tuning in here today. Please like, share, subscribe. You could even hype the video. I've been doing that. That's kind of fun. Watching to see the points go up on people's videos. But thank you guys for tuning in so much today. Love you all. Be absolutely blessed. Don't forget, I have spiritual circles every second and fourth Sunday of the month. They are awesome, super fun. You get this personal energy check-in, some really profound messages. This is live that we do through Zoom at 11 Mountain Standard Time every second and fourth Sunday. So hope to see you guys there. Love you guys so much. Take care, and we will see you in the next one.